Let's begin by telling you that Nigeria plunged into darkness early Monday morning after the national electricity grid collapsed at approximately 2 a.m. Data from the Transmission Company of Nigeria indicates zero power generation from all 4 generation companies at that time. The blackout impacted a significant portion of the country, with 7 out of 11 electricity distribution companies receiving zero load allocation. Only Ikeja, Benin, Abuja, and Ibadan discos received minimal power, around 250 megawatts in total. While the TCN has yet to officially confirm the collapse, it would mark the 6th such incident this year, adding to the nation's ongoing electricity woes. Now, this comes on the heels of a recent electricity tariff hike for certain consumer groups, sparking mixed reactions from the public. In the meantime, the federal government of Nigeria has appealed to members of the National Union of Electricity Employees not to down tools over the recent electricity tariff hike. The appeal follows the union's determination to withdraw their services should the government fail to rescind its decision on the removal of subsidy on the tariff payable by Band A customers. Now, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission had on April 3rd raised the electricity tariff for consumers enjoying 20 hours of supply daily. Customers in this category were said to be under the Band A classification, and the increase raised their tariff to 225 naira per kilowatt hour from 666 naira per kilowatt hour. To discuss this further, I'm joined by Peter Adeoye, member, National Union of Electricity Employees. Hello, Peter. Thank you so much for joining me at this time. All right, we just lost Peter. We'll try to reconnect with him. Now, away from that, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has announced significant progress in its ongoing investigation into the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs scandal, with fresh recoveries totaling $445,000 and 3 billion naira. According to EFCC spokesman Dele Oyewale, these latest recoveries were made between March and April, building upon the 30 billion naira previously recovered before March, as referenced by EFCC chairman Olu Olukoyede in a recent interview. The probe was initiated by the directive of President Bola Tinubu following the suspension of the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Dr. Betta Edu. Also under scrutiny are Edu's predecessors, Sadiya Umar Farouk, and the coordinator of the National Social Insurance Programs Agency, Halima Shehu. Oyewale noted that the EFCC remains committed to uncovering any instances of financial impropriety and ensuring accountability within government agencies as investigations continue. Organized labor has outlined its expectations, with a key demand for the federal government to unveil a new minimum wage as Nigeria prepares to celebrate Workers' Day on May 1st. In an interview, Tommy Etim, National Vice President of the Trade Union Congress, underscored the pressing need for revised minimum wage, citing concerns over the impact of government policies that have worsened poverty levels among Nigerians. Etim emphasized that the welfare of workers must be prioritized, urging the government to consider their plight seriously. He noted that labor leaders anticipate the rollout of various incentives to alleviate the financial strain caused by government policies that have eroded the purchasing power of workers and citizens alike. And let's also tell you that heightened security measures are in place across southwest Nigerian states in response to recent events, as authorities have bolstered security around key government installations, aiming to prevent any attempts to disrupt law and order by groups pushing their agendas. Security agencies have issued stern warnings, emphasizing their resolve to clamp down on any form of insecurity. They caution individuals claiming affiliation with the Yoruba nation's agitation to choose the path of peace or face the consequences. Now, this announcement comes after an alarming incident on Saturday where separatist Yoruba Nation agitators made an audacious attempt to seize the Oyo State Government Secretariat in Ibadan. Reports indicate that the agitators, dressed in army camouflage and armed with rifles, sought to raise their flag at the Oyo State House of Assembly premises. However, swift action by security agencies led to the arrest of 20 individuals involved in the attempt. In the meantime, fresh crisis seems to be brewing in Delta communities over a disputed parcel of land between Afisere and Ogbowan communities, both in Ughelli North local government area of Delta State, South Nigeria. This is coming barely a few months after some communities within the state couldn't resist their differences that led to the loss of lives and property. News Central correspondent Austin Azu completes the report.
Ogbowan and Afisere communities are both of Ughelli Kingdom in Delta State. Both communities are said to have good records of cordial relationship over the years, especially when attributed to their intermarriages, commerce, culture, and traditions. Leaders of Ogbowan community have converged on this hall to address the recent developments in their area. They accused a neighboring Afisere community of erecting 2 signposts at the center of their community with inscriptions as "Welcome to Afisere Extension, Goodbye from Afisere Extension."
It is indeed not only worrisome, but also highly provocative that the Afisere youth pulled down the signboard of Ogbowan Secondary School and in its place erected their second signboard. However, by the special grace of God, Ogbowan youths who were visibly angry were restrained by elders of Ogbowan community from confronting the Afisere youths while in the process of erecting the signboards. All efforts made by the elders of Ogbowan community to resolve the issue through dialogue with Afisere people have so far proved abortive.
Meanwhile, Afisere community leaders have revealed that the people of Ogbowan are customary tenants in their community, as they denied having any land disputes with her neighbor, Ogbowan.
The ancestral home of the Ogbowan community is located between 2 to 3 kilometers from the present-day Ogbowan community. The pertinent question is that, is it wrong that Afisere community secured their land by erecting a signpost on their land?
To avert another land dispute-related crisis in Delta State, it is expected that the state government would activate all mechanisms to urgently intervene in the pending crisis between both communities. In Ughelli, Delta State, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, members of the Chibok community in Borno State, northeastern Nigeria, have called for the return of all rescued Chibok schoolgirls still in the custody of the state government to their families. They accused the Borno state government of keeping the girls with repentant Boko Haram members and denying their families access to them. Idong Joseph reports.
It's exactly 10 years since the sad and unfortunate kidnap of over 276 secondary school girls from Chibok in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. While about 194 girls have so far been rescued, with 82 still remaining in captivity, members of the Chibok community have expressed disappointment over government's inability to effect their rescue.
Within this time, 48 parents have lost their lives, mostly due to heart conditions and other health-related reasons. 3 parents have been killed in subsequent Boko Haram attacks in Chibok and have been victims of vitriolic campaigns aimed at dissuading us from pursuing the cause of our daughters.
Many families from the community say they are yet to find closure and want the government to come out clean on those who they say they have information that have died in captivity.
As witnessed and established by their classmates and friends while in captivity. There's no dodging the bullet here. 2 of the parents have since gotten the news of the passing of their daughters.
They accused the Borno state government of rehabilitating the rescued girls with the Boko Haram terrorists, urging them to reunite the girls with their families. They also called for the 2014 General Sabo Fact-Finding Committee report on the Chibok incidents to be made public.
We demand a formal rebuttal and apology to all the families and the community at large for the illegal cohabitation encouraged by the Borno state government by calling the terrorists their husbands.
Immediately publish and disclose the facts and findings, all investigation panel reports that have been carried out on the abduction of our Chibok girls.
Community members here have accused the government of keeping the community under siege on the pretext of ensuring adequate security. And they say security operatives have continuously denied the public access to the community, a situation they find discomforting. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idonk Joseph.
Residents of Chibok community have raised concerns over the scarcity of clean water in the town as the town marks a decade since the tragic abduction of schoolgirls by Boko Haram insurgents. News Central's Umaru Kirawa, who traversed Chibok community, now tells us more.
Access to clean water has been a daily struggle for many families in Chibok town. Grace Dauda and her friends await their turn to use the hand pump to push out water to meet their needs and that of their children.
Roko kullum muke a gare su. Chibok kan muna da matsalar ruwa sosai. Yanzu mu da kanmu haka da muka zo tun ɗazu yara suna gida ma ba mu samu ruwa ko abinci ba mu iya mun yi ba.
Idan an yi shi sai a tsaya hanya, in an yi shi a tsaya hanya wanda ya lalace kuma ya kamata a gyara shi. To ka gani shine abin da ake so. To amma ba an ya lalace ma to ba a so a gyara.
Kawai da Allah taimake mu. Kaga yanzu dam nan yayi kusa ya kare. Idan ya kare dole sai dai a ringa tafiya mu ba. A je a dauka a kawo a cikin garin nan. In ba haka ba ba zai yi ba a nan garin. In dan ya kare nan. Kurin abincin kama ba za ka samu da wuri wallahi.
The town of Chibok has become symbolic not only for the tragedy it endured but also for the resilience and strength of its people.
Kaga pompon ma ana ini ana kwana akai kowane lokaci. Yana hana yara zuwa makaranta don ba za a yi musu abinci ba. Dabbobi ma har ba sai su samu jiki suna rami har wayansu ma suna mutuwa.
To ruwan nan muna in mun ɗeba muna sai da 400-300 amma kuma muna samun ruwan nan da wala. Ini kullum ina samu 3,000.
The government have provided hand pumps for the water, boreholes in some areas. Although these initiatives have positively impacted the community, the scale of the problem seems to require a broader systemic solution.
Gaskiya zamana Chibok yanzu ya kai shekara 60 kaga ban taba ga isheshe ruwa ba. Ina roko gwamnati Nigeria ko na Borno ko wani gwamnati dai da kuma organizations dai in za su taimaka su yi mana ruwa sosai don mu samu ruwa isheshe a kowane lokaci a wannan kasa.
Kenan daga nan har 12 dare zaga mutane. Kuma pump guda ɗaya ne. Nan da haka guda ɗaya ne. Sai kuma can ba lalle ya ishe mu bane. Idan gwamnati za su iya taimaka mana gaskiya su taimaka mana. Muna buƙatar ruwa na ire sosai.
The Chibok community's struggle for improved water supply is a reflection of their resilience in the face of adversity. As they mark the 10-year anniversary of the abduction of over 200 of their girls, though many have returned, but dozens are still in the hands of the abductors, they continue to push for a better future, at least in having clean water. In Chibok for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
Thank you, Umaru, for that report. Now, similarly, between the 2014 abduction of students in Chibok and now, there has been over a dozen attacks on schools where students and teachers were either kidnapped or killed. This next report by News Central's Usman Ononye helps us better understand how safe schools have become in the last 10 years. His report.
By the Save the Children initiative says that about 1,700 school children have been kidnapped within the last 10 years. About 180 children and 14 school staff also lost their lives in the attacks within the same period. Let's just try to help you make better sense of all of this. There has been several, but we pick a few to understand. And first, we begin with Government Girls Secondary School in Chibok, Borno State. The incident took place on April 14, exactly 10 years today, and it led to the kidnap of 270 plus schoolgirls. This triggered widespread outrage, leading to the Bring Back Our Girls campaign. Foreign and local forces lashed out on the incident and, on the government of the day led by President Goodluck Jonathan, and government began to react 2 weeks after silence, 2 weeks after of keeping quiet and perhaps not sure of what really happened. Many were freed several years, but we understand that some, dozens as a matter of fact, are still in captivity. It didn't end there. We went ahead to see again from Government Girls Science and Technical College, Yobe State, on February 19, 2018, where 110 schoolgirls were kidnapped. 5 of them died on the day of the abduction, and 104 of them were released on March 2018. One of them, Leah Sharibu, everyone will remember, is still in captivity. The next incident we are monitoring took place at the Government Science Secondary School in Kankara, Zamfara State on December 11, 2020, where about 300 students were abducted. The governor of the state then said that the Bieti Allah was responsible for securing their release. That's quite interesting. And then we move to the next incident we are tracking from Government Science College, Kagara, Niger State, February 17, 2021. 27 students were abducted from their school. 1 died in the gunfire that led to the abduction. 3 staff of the school and 12 of their family members were also taken. 42 of them were freed 10 days after from captivity. And then the next we are looking at is at Government Girls Secondary School, Jangebe, Zamfara State, on February 26, 2021. 317 students were abducted from their school in one night, and the so-called bandits were held responsible. Zamfara State government shut all boarding schools in reaction. The hostages were released a few days after, on March the 2nd, 2021. Next school we are looking at is Salihu Tanko Islamic School in Niger State. On May 30, 2021, 150 students were kidnapped from this school in one operation. One of them, who was shot in the process, later died. 88 days after being with the abductors, these children were freed. And then the next school we are looking at, which appears to be the most recent, is LEA Primary and Junior High School, where about 300 pupils and students and teachers also were abducted in the morning, and so-called bandits again were held responsible. Then the interesting thing is that 137 of them were freed after, which created a kind of confusion on what exact number that were kidnapped in the first instance. However, what is most important is that they are free. A teacher unfortunately died in the hands of the abductors. The children were later reunited with their families 3 days after in Kaduna. But also remember, they were kidnapped in Kaduna but released in Zamfara State. If you connect these dots, you will understand how serious the situation had been. There are several of these incidents, several of them, but we chose to look at these few to broaden our thoughts and make us better understand the magnitude of the situation we have in our hands. Successive governments have made different shades of promises to protect schools and end insurgency in Nigeria. These 10 years and the records of incidents on the table that we all can see within the period may just be a measurement of the sincerity or lack of it from the authorities in keeping these promises.
Now moving on to more news. Having more children than the family income can comfortably take care of has been blamed for the cycle of poverty in many African societies, including Nigeria. To embrace family planning as a way of achieving poverty eradication and promoting the health of women, health experts say the factors that mitigate against family planning must be dismantled through more sensitization. News Central's Omolola Ololade in this report explored some of the myths and misconceptions hindering the upscale of family planning in Nigeria.
With a population of approximately 200 million, an annual population growth rate of 3.2%, and a total fertility rate of 5.2%, Nigeria is set to double its population in 10 years if nothing is done to reverse the demographic momentum, according to statistics. Despite being the most populous in the continent, the country has a contraceptive prevalence rate of only 12%. The unmet need for family planning in Nigeria is estimated to be at 48% among sexually active unmarried women and 19% among currently married women, according to UNICEF. These therefore reflect the attitude of Nigerians towards family planning.
Well, I think the major reason behind family planning is the aspect of procedure. That's if you don't meet the right person. You know, some people in the quest to do family planning could end up meeting people that are not specialists, and before you know it, they end up risking their lives and their fertility status.
The reason why they actually went into it because they were trying to prevent pregnancy, but at some point when they now needed the pregnancy, they started having little complications. Sometimes maybe removing it, even after removal, it's now difficult for them to conceive.
Many women and many families give birth, call it unwanted children, but no any children that is unwanted. It is due to lack of knowledge of family planning. That is why they continue to give births.
Despite the advocacy and interventions by the government and non-governmental organizations, disproportionate perceptions, ideations, cultural beliefs and myths have remained major barriers against family planning in most African countries, including Nigeria. While family planning remains one of the key pillars of safe motherhood, many uninformed people perceive it as a decoy to depopulate Africa, hence the need for more sensitization.
Instead of coming to the facility where they will counsel you and then make a choice. What I mean by counseling, I mean giving you the opportunity to make an informed choice of the different available contraceptives for you to uptake. People continue to feed wrong information to our sisters, aunties, mothers, and all that, and then they refuse. And the next thing is they'll be having unplanned pregnancies.
You have people say that family planning, it's a way to control the population, that it's a white world agenda to reduce the African population. So a lot needs to go into family planning education, even though it seems that within the urban, we all know about family planning, but within the communities, a lot of advocacies, a lot of social behavioral change communication needs to happen.
For family planning to move forward in Nigeria, experts believe a joint effort is needed, with the government taking a leadership role in promoting the use of family planning and ensuring the relevant stakeholders take individual responsibilities seriously. In Lagos, for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Thank you, Omolola, for that report. Now, Amnesty International has joined the chorus of voices urging Nigeria's government to intervene in Shell's proposed sale of its onshore oil business, citing concerns over human rights in Niger Delta. According to the human rights charity, the sale could worsen ongoing human rights abuses in the region if the environmental damage caused by Shell's operations is not addressed. Amnesty International insists that Shell must allocate sufficient funds to remediate the environmental harm it has caused, and that local communities in the Niger Delta must be consulted about the sale, which is valued at over $2.4 billion. Activists have long accused Shell of negligence, attributing frequent oil leaks in the Niger Delta to the company's practices, which have led to contamination of groundwater sources and other environmental issues. The Nigerian Meteorological Agency, NIMET, has issued weather predictions warning of unstable conditions in both the northern and southern regions of the country. According to NIMET's report, as the afternoon progresses, thunderstorm activities is expected to intensify across the southern region, extending to parts of the FCT, Kogi, Benue, and Taraba. Despite the dryness in the north, NIMET warns that air quality remains unhealthy in the region, while it's moderate in the central and southern regions. NIMET emphasizes the importance of taking preventive measures, especially as strong winds may precede the onset of thunderstorms. Residents are advised to stay hydrated and remain vigilant. Furthermore, NIMET urged airline operators to stay updated with weather reports and forecasts for effective planning in their operations. Thank you for staying with us. Now, tensions escalate in Kenya as civil and human rights groups demand an apology from the country's police chief over his controversial remarks targeting striking health workers. The Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, initiated a strike on March 14th, citing grievances including unpaid salary arrears and delays in deploying medical interns. However, Inspector General of Police Japhet Kume sparked outrage when he leveled the striking health workers as a public nuisance for obstructing roads and causing disruptions during demonstrations. Kume further warned of potential security threats from non-medical individuals joining the protests, instructing the police to handle such situations firmly. In response, KMPDU and 8 civil and human rights organizations have demanded a retraction and apology from Kume, threatening legal action if their demands are not met. The transitional president in Chad, General Mahamat Idris Deby Itno, has launched his campaign for the upcoming presidential election in May, a contest he is expected to dominate, with his main rivals sidelined from the race. At just 40 years old, General Itno ascended to power after a junta of 15 generals declared him president following the death of his father, Idris Deby Itno, who had held sway over Chad for over 3 decades. Initially, General Itno pledged to return power to civilian rule within 18 months and vowed not to run for president. However, he later extended the transition period by 2 years and announced his candidacy for the presidency in March.
Qui est articulé en 12 chantiers et organisé en 100 actions concrètes. Choisissez-moi le 6 mai. Choisissez-moi le 6 mai. Et je suis un homme de parole. Je suis un homme de parole. Comme j'ai respecté mes engagements pendant la transition, je vais respecter mes engagements si je suis élu le 6 mai, le président de la République du Tchad.
Tensions flare in Namibia following a controversial meeting between European Union envoys and a prominent opposition leader, sparking calls for the expulsion of the diplomats from the country. Last week, EU envoys convened with Panduleni Itula, leader of the Independent Patriots for Change, at the residence of the German ambassador in Windhoek, drawing ire from members of the ruling SWAPO party. Vice President Netumbo Nandi Naitwa condemned the meeting as highly questionable diplomacy, raising concerns about potential interference in Namibia's upcoming elections. In response, the SWAPO Party Youth League called for the expulsion of diplomats from Germany, Finland, France, Spain, and Portugal, urging the government to declare them persona non grata. However, the EU mission in Namibia refuted allegations of meddling in state affairs, describing the meeting as an informal lunch focused on discussing the country's situation and Mr. Tula's election campaign. Now let's head to South Africa, where the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial is back in the Pretoria High Court today after a nearly 3-week-long recess. The case was postponed to allow accused number one's lawyer, Thulani Mngomezulu, to familiarize himself with the docket. 5 men are on trial for killing the soccer star in 2014 in what the state claims was a robbery gone wrong. More witnesses are expected to take the stand. Now to discuss this, I'm joined by a legal practitioner, Elton Romeo Hart. Hello, Elton. Thank you so much for joining me at this time.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers up in the West.
Good afternoon. All right, so Elton, what is the update on the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial following its resumption this morning?
From where we ended off last, the court just briefly dealt with the admissibility, or not briefly, it was actually a long stint that they had with the confessions that was now declared admissible, and the state started leading evidence pertaining to data that is found on cell phones that they allege was found in possession of the accused persons. And this morning the trial started, where the state was still presenting evidence as to where these cell phones was found and what the information was and how they handled it. And now also just before the break, the defense teams was busy with cross-examining the witness pertaining to the chain of evidence. That means is how they handled the cell phone from when it was found and up until the point where the information was extracted and analyzed on it. And it is clear that from what the defense is saying, that there was many cell phones confiscated on that day, and this particular cell phone was not the cell phone that was confiscated from the accused, as the state wants to make it out, and the information thereon cannot be used against this accused because there was also a tampering with the chain, or how you handle it from getting it, seizing it. You have to put it in a forensic bag. You have to identify it clearly, and that is where the defense say the problems lie. They're trying to pin a specific cell phone or attach it to one of the accused persons.
Okay, now in all that you have actually said, how crucial is it for the justice system to address any potential delays or controversies surrounding the trial in order to uphold the integrity of the legal proceedings?
No, in order for them, they need to now get through the witnesses as speedy as possible, make sure that most of the witnesses are at court. So when they are done with one witness, they can actually just bring the other witness in so that they can start leading evidence and also cross-examine these witnesses. That is from the state's perspective. But from the defense side, if they're going to ask for postponement, they just need to justify and show it's in the interest of justice that they get a postponement, like Thulani Mngomezulu did some 3 weeks ago, where he said he had to familiarize himself with the docket, and Section 35 of the Constitution says that. So the state cannot do much, but they can make sure that logistically all their witnesses is there, and they start with cross-examination as soon as possible. But the defense can throw spanners in the works, and the state is also make sure all evidence that they're going to present, that they have given copies of that evidence that they want to present already to the defense team so that they can take instructions from their clients.
And now, Elton, the media has actually been scrutinized for its reporting on this case. What role do you believe the media and public scrutiny play in influencing the outcomes of high-profile trials like the Senzo Meyiwa case?
There is good and bad to it. Sometimes people's perceptions of how a trial court works is not really in practice how it works, and they sometimes would do things in court that they would not understand because they are not legally trained. But it also gives insight into people like you and me sitting here now, having insight into what's happening at the trial, and we can actually give an informed outcome or the informed information to the public out there to say, currently this is what they are doing and this is the purpose for that. So it has the good and the bad, but the media helps a lot to make sure also that an accused person's rights is not violated, because the judges, magistrates, and the practitioners involved in the case know that the public is watching them and they are scrutinizing them. So they will be very careful not to infringe or step on the rights of accused persons. They would be more lenient towards the accused persons, and that's how our criminal justice system is built. and some of the other public will feel, but they are being given too much slack again. So there's always these counterbalances that normally acts in when the media is there, but I think it's good so that the people is informed, because this is a case of public interest, specifically in South Africa, and I think also on the African continent.
Okay. It's very important for the justice system not to infringe on the rights of the accused persons as well. But then, as a legal analyst, what are your insights on the significance of this trial, that's in terms of setting precedents for future criminal investigations and prosecutions, especially those involving public figures?
And I think if you take it now, and I think you and I also discussed at some stage the AKA murder in South Africa. And if you look at how the police operated on that murder, where they actually first had to do a lot of groundwork, making sure that they can actually arrest the perpetrators, the alleged perpetrators, bring them before a court of law in connection with another case. And only once they are denied bail, then they had charged them with the case of AKA and Tips in the second part of it. And now they have all of them lined up. It's now just the part that we have to extradite 2 suspects from Eswatini and bring them back. In that instance, this is now what police can gather as to how you deal with the case. You make sure you've got all the witnesses, you gather all your evidence, you make sure everything is in line before you act, so that people cannot sort of hide information, adjust their stories, and even try and evade and protract their trial. So that is what one can learn from this trial. And also you could see incepts because of the fact, and I think we talked about it also earlier on your program, so I don't know if it's your co-host, that we talked about that there was 2 dockets, docket 363 and docket 375, that was open for the same cause of action. And that should never happen. And it should actually teach investigating officers that there must be a streamlined approach when you do investigation. They must set out what is their goals with the investigation, what do they want to check, and make sure that the right people is brought before court and is actually found guilty for the crimes that they have committed.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Elton Romeo Hart, for joining me at this time and speaking on this. Now on World Rap, 6 months after the bloody Hamas attack on the Nova Music Festival in southern Israel, a group of survivors returned to the site in Reim, most of them for the first time since the deadly attack. Thousands of young people had gathered on October 6th and 7th to dance to electronic music at the festival, which was held near the Reim kibbutz close to the Gaza border. Fighters from the Palestinian militant group Hamas crossed over and killed 364 people at the festival. The victims accounted for nearly a third of the 1,170 people killed in the October 7th attack, most of them civilians.
כשגם הגעתי, ציפיתי לראות איזה משהו יפה, אני כאילו לא רואה משהו יפה. וזה גם מה שאמרתי, שזה כאילו קצת ביאס אותי, הציפייה הזאת, לראות אותו פתאום יפה ופורח. הוא לא יפה ופורח, כאילו אני מרגישה את החורבן פה, אני מרגישה את כאילו עדיין כאן. אבל עכשיו הגעתי כאילו לאיזה מסקנה של אוקיי, אני לא אזכור את המקום הזה בצורה כמו שחשבתי שאני אזכור אותה, אבל אני רוצה לעשות את המסלול שלי ולהבין פחות או יותר איפה הייתי ולהשלים את הנקודות החסרות כי את לא זוכרת הכל, כאילו הרוב לא זוכרים הכל. אבל עכשיו אני ממש מרגישה ביום יום, כל דבר שאני עושה, מאוד רגישה לרעשים, בלילה קשה לי להירדם, כאילו זה דברים שאני מתמודדת איתם.
The United States is renewing efforts to push through a stalled funding package for Israel, despite stressing it will not help with any counteroffensive measures against Iran. President Joe Biden told Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a phone call late on Sunday that the U.S. will not take part in any retaliatory action in response to Iran's air attack the previous day. Despite the U.S. president joining global calls for restraint, the rising tensions in the Middle East look set to accelerate approval of a stalled funding package that will see Washington hand Netanyahu $14 billion in aid. In business, Egypt's Petroleum Ministry announced on Monday that the country intends to construct 2 solar power plants for 1 billion Egyptian pounds. That's approximately $20.60 million with funding from the European Union. According to the announcement, the Asut Oil Refining Company's 550 million Egyptian pound project, which has a 10 megawatt capacity, should be finished in 11 months. The Egyptian General Petroleum Corporation has another solar energy project planned with a 6.5 megawatt capacity and an investment cost of 500 million Egyptian pounds. That's approximately $10.42 million. The Treasury has made a U-turn on its pledge to end financial support to Kenya Airways amid delays in securing a strategic investor for the loss-making national carrier. Kenyan Airways has disclosed that Treasury, the principal shareholder of the airline, has confirmed via written commitment that it will remain on standby to offer financial support past the December 2023 deadline it had issued mid-January last year. According to a statement in an airline latest annual report, it said the government of Kenya has committed through a letter of support to continue providing the required financial support to the group and company to enable it to implement its recovery program and meet its financial obligations as and when they fail or fall due for at least the next 12 months from the date of approval of the annual financial statements for the year ended December 2023. Now, in the world of sports, Heartland Queens of Owerri have their sights firmly set on securing qualifications for the NWFL Super 6 with a victory against Niger Rattles. The Owerri-based side will host their Abuja counterparts on Wednesday in a crucial NWFL Premiership Matchday 13 encounter at the Dang Anyam Stadium. Now, while the primary objective is to secure the Super 6 ticket with a convincing win, Owerri has revealed that her team is also motivated to end Niger Rattles' dominance, having emerged victorious in 2 of their 3 previous league meetings. With the stakes high and the Super 6 berth on the line, Heartland Queens will be determined to capitalize on their home advantage and deliver a statement performance against their Abuja rivals. Italian Serie A side Roma can confirm their defender Evan Dica feels better and is in good spirits, but will remain under observation for tests in the hospital. This comes after Roma's Serie A match against Udinese was abandoned following the defender's collapse on the pitch during the game. Now, with the score tied at 1-1 and with 18 minutes of normal time remaining, the Ivory Coast international collapsed off the ball and was stretched off the pitch. Following a 10-minute period of talks, both clubs, in conjunction with referee Luca Pareto, made a decision to suspend the match, with the decision greeted with applause inside Stadio Friuli. Encouraging news filtered through late on Sunday as Roma's players visited Ndika in hospital, with the 24-year-old set to remain in hospital for further tests. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. We told you that Nigeria has been plunged into total darkness as national grid collapses again. We also told you that EFCC recovers fresh $445,000 and 3 billion naira in ongoing Humanitarian Affairs Ministry probe. And finally, you heard that human rights groups have demanded apology from Kenyan police chief. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Do follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Dashen. Usman.